It's time for Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo. This new show discusses trends, technology, and tactics to help the listener learn more about improving sales, saving money, and fulfilling a personal mission through entrepreneurship.
Welcome to Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo on WVLP 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Mark Mondo. We're on the air in Valparaiso, Indiana, and you can listen to us streaming on the website at wvlp.org or use the TuneIn app on your mobile device and look for WVLP. 103.1 FM WVLP is a local nonprofit radio station based in Valparaiso, Indiana. This show, like many of the shows on WVLP, are made possible by the generosity of donors and underwriters. We accept donations at wvlp.org. Simply click on the support tab and make a one-time donation or sustained pledge to WVLP. All donations are tax deductible. Underwriters are made up of businesses and organizations that support the shows on WVLP. Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo would like to thank Homes by Hortensia, a Coldwell Banker affiliate in Porter County, Indiana, for their support. Homes by Hortensia has served the region's residential real estate needs in Indiana for over 12 years. Contact Hortensia Moreno or Tiffany Zarayo at 219-249-5118 or visit homesbyhortensia.com. Homes by Hortensia, habla español. To my side is my co-host, producer, star soprano, and my wife, Mrs. Cynthia Zimmerman. Welcome.
Thank you.
And to my other side is one of our favorite Brits calling in from London. He endures my desire to keep visiting castles and to learn about British politics and hooks me up with the best Indian food in England, Mr. Vivek Gargav.
Good evening. Hello.
Great to have you with us, Vivek.
Yeah, it's great to be invited onto your show.
What we're going to talk about tonight, the reason I got Vivek here all the way from England, is to talk about how he used AI to create content marketing materials with essentially relatively speaking, no previous experience. Vivek, how did you get here? The thing I do know about Viv before he gets into the journey, he was something like a microbiologist. Microbiologist to marketing, was there anything else in between?
Well, I started off as a microbiologist, and I'm actually identified more as a molecular biologist and mitochondrial geneticist, but that was a previous life. I then went on to being, I quit research and went into IT. And that journey led me into becoming a programmer, a developer. So I did that for quite some time and went and carried on and became a data scientist, which is very similar. It's basically data analyst and working with all of that. And finally, I got tired of that, and through sort of medical issues and whatever, I can explain in more detail some other time. But landed up leaving my technical career behind, staying in our little company, and took on the role of marketing because, well, nobody else wanted to do it, and I was sitting on my backside doing nothing really.
So hold on a sec here. Biology to dev to marketing. I mean, could there be more? There can be a lot more contrast going on here. Were there any challenges along the way? I mean, you had to learn, different speak. One of the great quotes I had about marketing was from a Dilbert comic where it was basically there was a sign above the door. It said marketing 2-drink minimum.
Oh,
And that's what I know. So, I've got some notes here that you had some challenges, and I think there was stuff about, I don't know, I think there's a piece of software because you're in marketing, you got to know stuff about WordPress.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I think if I'm totally honest, the greatest challenge, other than being a business owner, has been moving into marketing. Everything else leading up to this has been very sequential, or the way you approach things is very, very factual. You can measure things very, very clearly, and there are very defined points of either it's worked or it hasn't. I mean, for example, you mix some chemicals together, and either you blow up or you create a new wonder chemical. It's very clear whether you succeeded or not. and the same goes for code. Either it works and the users love it, or you get death threats in your inbox that you're the worst and lamest that's ever existed ever.
Or you take the grief for software you didn't write. Or kind of like the car, or to use it for the people not in the non-computer world. If you bought a Chevy and you go to the car dealer and you yell at the Chevy dealer for Chevrolet's defects, so we got kind of tired of that. I think you got a little burned out. And then were there other, macroeconomic challenges as you transition from dev or coder or scientist to this subjective, squishy marketing world? When you run a business, you got macro threats like managing labor costs. We had the 2008 economic crisis. Did you have that over there as well?
Yeah, it felt, and I'm sure there's many business owners and small business owners that feel this, but it felt as if there was some kind of universal vendetta against us in ever succeeding, because in 2008, 2009, us as a small consultancy were about to make some really big strides and up our game. And, we were seriously, and it sounds like hyperbole at the moment, but we were seriously looking at, having gross turnovers in 7 digits. And then the 2008, 2009 economic crisis happened. And that was dreadful, because I remember having a conversation with my sales manager, and he sort of said, and I remember it today, he said, 72% of our prospect list is either in administration or about to go into administration. And then we roll on to, we get over that, and and around about 2015, 2016, we were about to take another really big stride. We had some great partnerships with Microsoft. They'd invited us to their headquarters to build out, things, and we were working directly with Salesforce as well to build out some tools for them. And Britain chose to shoot itself in the face by electing Brexit.
And for those who don't know what Brexit is, and there's a couple other English terms I wanted to translate along the way. When Vivek was talking about 7-figure turnover means total gross sales in American English. We do have a different language over here. And when companies go into administration, that would be like Chapter 11 or bankruptcy. Just in case we wanted to translate. I know it was in context, but it's something we just want to make sure we're good there. So all right. So now you're sitting here like, all right, you got your Brexit, you got companies stabbing you, macroeconomic factors that are getting awful, and you're busy trying to write code, and you're like, I think there's something to be changed.
Yeah. So, also, just to add extra spice into this sort of rather limp pie that life had created for me, I was diagnosed with a tumor in my knee. with all of this happening all at the same time, we learned how to sort of assess. I was a single point of failure within the organization because a lot of the code resided in me. All our very large, profitable projects were all inside my head. So if I went, then it'd be disaster. So we had to very quickly pivot, and I think that's one of the benefits of being a small business is with all the misery that is associated with running your own business is that you can actually adapt and change, and that's one of the real things where we can actually as a small business go toe to toe against large enterprises because they cannot adapt to a changing market as fast and swiftly and precisely as a small business can. But we pivoted, we changed vendors, we changed skill sets, and we became essentially a sales and marketing house and outsourced all our technical work. And we very, very, very quickly realized that we were a sales and marketing house without any marketing.
Right. So now you got marketing going on, right? Now you've established.
No, that was the problem.
Well, that's
we had
exactly.
sales going on with no marketing.
So now you got no marketing, and you're sitting there going, well, I don't want to do the tech support anymore.
Yeah.
You're fried. You're fried, and you don't want to be the sole point of failure if you get disabled or you're not here to hang out with us because I can't reverse engineer your code. Even if there's a time zone difference and a language barrier, it'd be really it's really hard to pivot that kind of now intellectual capital to somebody else. I started helping Vivek out a lot by sharing what worked in the States. We follow a big brand of software called ActCRM. That's how we met. And what I was able to do over a couple of years was build web pages that were indexed to that term. So I could say something like, Act and Outlook is broken. And if I wrote an article, I could get found. And then people would see me as an expert. So that's how I've been building my marketing. But I had to build it off the brand. It wasn't the Mark Mondo brand. And what I wanted to do is I struggled. About 2016, I knew the writing was on the wall where living on that brand isn't going to grow the business. It's not going to grow the business, full stop. And so Vivek and I both were like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because we know we don't want to do the tech support. Making a living waiting for to install software for a living is on its way down.
And waiting for stuff to break.
And waiting for stuff to break. I mean, we were able to sit there. I'll lament here really quick. 20 years ago when I started the business, when I moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Chicago, I was literally having to move back home, and I was literally turning down business. It was the Y2K stuff, and things were breaking. I had to literally just, it was a different era. So here we are trying to market, and then both of us retained a gentleman that was on last week's show, Mr. Michael Woyan, and he came in as a mentor, coach, consigliere type that said, look, you got to market yourself. You got to learn how create content that works. You got to be what's called a thought leader. So Mark Mondo or Vivek Gargav or Cynthia Zimmerman are the brand versus Act Software or Zoho Software or Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics. We can dovetail on that, but that era is coming to an end in our industry. Michael would help me try to write content. I would spend 4 hours at a time. I'd get an article out the door, and I drew my hands up because it was a homework assignment. And I don't know, Vivek, you endured a similar fate. You did all this work.
You were very much my inspiration, really.
Was I the wind beneath your wings?
You certainly were, and you still are. It was. I mean, it was. I was not to denigrate any of your skills or anything, but I mean, I was starting not even from zero. I was starting from like a negative number. So anything above was phenomenal. But the stuff that you were doing, and I was seeing your search results. You were coming up. You were on first page. On some points, you were actually number one in the Google results. And you were, to use the Americanism, you were just a regular Joe. And it was just sort of like, well, bloody hell, it's certainly possible, but I don't have the knowledge. I I just don't. I don't have. I think was this the summary result that I had. And then with the mentoring from Michael, it felt as if, when you're at the bottom of a hill and you look up and you think, there's just absolutely no bloody way. There's just so much. There's so much I don't know and so little that I do know. That I don't even know where to begin. There's so many areas that I don't know. I could start at anywhere and then still be at zero. I could just throw, just put a blindfold on, throw a dart, and start there. So that's essentially what we did.
Right.
The first challenge was we needed a website that was working, and we were getting hacked, and there were so many problems. So, Mark, you kind of were my therapist at the time, as well as tech support, really, helping me sort that out. But we finally worked out it was just we needed to, move hosts. We needed to make some technical changes at the back. Once that was done, I followed through what all the books, all the theory on running your own business. So say, as a business owner, don't try and do it on your own. Go and get somebody who knows what they're doing, get the experts in, and let them do what they do. You just manage. And, £10,000, and 1 year later, I had nothing but disappointment and sadness and a hole in my budget and some very difficult questions to answer to my co-owners, who is actually my older sister.
So to translate, £10,000 is about $12,500. That's a lot of money, no matter which continent you're on. So
you paid a marketing consultant to help you with your marketing, and you ended up with nothing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it's so. I mean, we took on Michael. He was the only out of all the investments. So I'm not including that in the 10,000. He was the only thing that and person that actually made a real difference and continues to make a real difference. And that's the difference between someone who knows what they're talking about and has walked the walk and the people I was dealing with. So essentially, I stabilized everything. They even broke what we had fixed, which is, takes a special level of skill. So after that, we stabilized it. We got it all working, and WordPress became a swear word in my world, and certain web companies as well.
How did Michael help you?
So it's exactly what Mark was saying. I mean, making the transition from being a technical person to being a fluffy, what I visioned or presumed was, a vacuous, nebulous individual in marketing, who hugged fluffy unicorns and had brainstorming meetings over a cappuccino or a latte or something. I don't know. So something ridiculous. So
and that's your inner dev coming out again. Your nature.
So I mean, Michael actually helped rewire my brain. And the thing is, because the problem, out of the many personal flaws that I do have, one of that countless many is the fact that I've always been very sequential, very methodical in my approach to a particular problem, in that I get entrenched in a particular way of doing things or whatever. And I mean, there's a bit of creative. I mean, you can't be a developer without being creative, etc. But it's a very engineering kind of approach, and the creativity is very in a very controlled manner. And marketing was completely different. There was no right, there was no wrong. Everything is right and everything is wrong all at the same time. It's just purely on that momentary context, and that was a very, 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 and it still is. It's something that I struggle with, but I think Michael was pivotal in helping me make that transition to that different part of my brain and to look at the world very differently. And I think one of the things that I lacked as a business person was that entrepreneurial thing that comes to many other people very naturally, but to look at every single challenge as an actual opportunity. I've seen all the little, Hallmark cards and all that kind of
You have those over there too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. You see those stupid motivational junk, like every moment is blah, 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 all that kind of crap. But
yes.
Yeah. But the thing is, what I have started seeing is that I am actually thinking in those ways, because from a marketing perspective, everything can be utilized as collateral. And this leads me on to content creation, etc., because I'm not creative at all. I don't have a creative bone in my body, and I've got the common sense of a squashed tomato.
Now you've established the character here. The character's been done. You've made the pivot from scientist to developer to technical engineering approach. Michael has shattered and rebuilt you as a marketing person. And now you are trying to get all this done at once. And
on zero budget.
And now that's right. Now, and by the way, you're broke. So now what?
And I've used up all the goodwill inside the company, because I've made everyone change and pivot and whatever, and said I will do the marketing and I will get these people in and blah blah blah. So I'd been noticing.
What are we going to turn to? What are we going to turn to here? So this is where I think at the beginning of the show, I want to start talking about how AI comes into the frame. Now that we've established you have the point of suffering, you've made the pivot, but how do you implement that pivot? Because here's what I got frustrated, and then I think this is where Vivek's story is really inspiring and truthful, because it works. I couldn't, for the last few years, could not get that content implemented. You're supposed to do it when? Oh, I'm busy. I'd rather go fix somebody's technical problem or go somewhere else. I gave up. We'll segue to Vivek, and let's look at maybe February or so, or actually late last year, right? You started looking at AI?
No. So AI came out, a thing called ChatGPT came out in October, November 2022. And my social feeds were just, they were just going, read this, Viv, read this, read this, read this. And me being a belligerent kind of fool, I said, no, I won't, because you're telling me to. So sod you. So I actively ignored my, social feed, which was screaming at me to pay attention, until the problem was I'd sacked my marketing agency. I had sacked my web people. I had sacked all my content writers. And so I had the very real problem of having to write content and not being able to write very well at all, beyond a scientific paper or code. I sat down one day, right, that's it, no more. I'm gonna write some content. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna write it. Today is the day. And so I did what anyone that's got a pressing problem and task to do. I went onto the internet and went and did something entirely different. And procrastinated, and that different procrastination rabbit hole was I went and looked at what this ChatGPT was. I kind of emerged 3 hours later, my head just exploding. My mind was genuinely, and it's lots of people say this about, but my brain was blown. It was when you look at a glass of, say, soda water, it's effervescing. The top of it, there's bubbles rising. There's just things going on, and that was the state of my brain. It was just like, bloody hell, there's so many things. I could do this, I could do that, blah blah blah, blah. I didn't know where to start, but I knew that suddenly I had at my fingertips a tool that I could use to write genuine content, and I could have almost like an advisor at hand that would help me to write search engine optimized, that's SEO optimized content. I had the beginning, the core elements for a content a marketing strategy. This is something that a journey that we'd started just pre-COVID, and I hadn't been able to implement and within a couple of hours, my brain was buzzing, and half an hour, when I started to put that tool, registered, and within half an hour of me deciding that I actually had my first draft of content that was AI written. And it was, I look back at the kind of, they're called prompts. So when you ask the AI to do a task or whatever, you refer to them as prompts. So it was a really, really lame prompt. And the article wasn't that great, but
let's think about this.
Yeah.
Think about what you just did. Instead of I got in the computer era, I was doing stuff in DOS and Apple IIs, in the 80s and messing around. And just to do 2 lines of code was amazing. Without you're a developer by trade, but what you're able to do with a chat GPT prompt, you go to chatgpt.org or .com, right? You register for an account.
OpenAI.com.
OpenAI.com. Boom.
Yeah.
You register for an account. It's free.
Yeah,
The free version allows you to ask, I think it's a limited number of questions in a time frame. I think that's mainly the limit at this point. Without getting too much into the weeds, you can start for free to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Start for free. So I can ask something like, I'll ask something that's not so serious, and then you're going to come up with something serious. I asked it where Jean-Luc Picard was. And for those who don't know who Jean-Luc Picard was, it is a Star Trek character from The Next Generation played by who, Cynthia?
Patrick Stewart.
And Cynthia has a great little fun story with Sir Patrick Stewart, don't you?
Yes, I got to meet him at a convention and have my picture taken with him. Oh, and my husband. So that was
I was kind of the side hustle to Sir Patrick Stewart, and I couldn't do nothing about it. So
he's supposed to be a really, really nice guy as well. All the little interviews I've seen.
So we could ask it where Jean-Luc Picard was. I asked it if it was sentient and if you're related to Skynet. And Skynet, for those who don't know, the pop culture reference, was the computer that took over the world in Terminator and set all the nuclear missiles on each other. You can ask us, and you can ask it in the way you and I talking right now. That's what's amazing about it. The prompt, you don't have to even learn how to use a search engine. You're writing in American English. That's a trigger for later. But that's going to lead us to one of our refinements you can do with AI. That you can write in conversational tone.
Yeah.
Something you want. Like I asked it to write a JavaScript function. We're going to see what Vivek can do.
Before we get into the next segment, we wanted to let you know you're listening to Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo on WVLP 103.1 FM, a community radio station out of Valparaiso, Indiana. Thanks for listening, and let's continue.
All right, so I know the enemy of my writing is the blank page. So Vivek, can you bring us to a place where you went from a blank page to 1,000-word blog article? And why would it be 1,000 words? And then we'll ask why it's 1,000 words. But how'd you go from a blank page to 1,000-word article?
Okay, so I delved further and further, into this, and how do I get the AI to do very much what you wanted to do? One of the first challenges I had was that I had to make this bloody robot speak English, not American. So that was it was driving me insane. There were Z's all over the place, and it was ludicrous. So that's become one of my core sort of things. I give it an instruction and then say, at the very end of it, and please only use British English. One of the weird things I found is that, unlike when I speak to my Google Assistant, who and I'm very sort of kind of do this, that, the other, I'm actually terribly polite when I'm speaking to the AI, and I don't know why. It's really peculiar. It could be maybe when the robot overlords sort of take us over as a species, they'll remember that I was always nice and polite. Who knows?
I think it's a fair. I'd bank that. I'm banking it.
This is one of the really critical big differences between doing a search engine and working with an AI. In search engines, you have to learn what are the trigger words to put down? So you can just put down just a string of disconnected words with no conjunctives in between. Whereas with AI, you can do that if that's the way you want to role. But ideally, the way the AIs, the current type of AIs, which are called LLMs, large language models, is that they emulate human speech patterns. And that's the critical thing. It's patterns, because we're talking about an AI at the end of the day. AIs are pattern recognition machines and pattern following machines. And that's very similar to how our brains work. I digress. So I just start talking to the AI. Well, I mean, one of the classic kind of sets of prompts that I do is, you are an SEO expert and an SEO and content marketing expert. You have years of experience in giving small businesses strategic and consultative advice on content marketing strategies. That's the opening gambit. So that's important, because what you're giving the AI, this is the context that I want you to work under from now on. You're setting the stage, you're setting the scene. The Hounds of the Baskervilles, it was a dark, foggy night. They were howling in the air. It sets the scene. So the AI knows that anything from now on is going to be SEO related and marketing strategy related, and we're talking about small businesses. Okay.
And you wrote it in that language. You didn't say, I had to learn some wonky SQL statement or C# or JavaScript or Java.
I could even do it as an artist, person who doesn't come from a tech background and just basically learned it all on the job. That is amazing to me, because I find it challenging to go through that with Google and trying to phrase it correctly to get it on. So this is amazing.
Yeah. No, that was one of the first things that blew my mind. Because I remember giving a conference a little while ago, a presentation at a conference, and I was showcasing Cortana, Microsoft's rather lame AI, with some of their business intelligence reporting tools. And that was actually really amazing, at that time, was that we could...
10 years ago.
Yeah, we could, we could talk into the microphone and sort of say, show me, the sales reports for this year and compare it against the previous 3 years. And it would understand that, and it would create the report. And it was like big round of applause and wow, isn't that clever? And that's really good. But that's compared to what these AIs are doing now. That's, it's like comparing a university professor to a child that's learned how to talk, at the age of 3 years old. So it's that much of a difference of where we are, because if we consider the prompt that I've just sort of given, set the context, then I sort of say, okay, one of the cool things at the moment with ChatGPT is you can have plugins. So previously when they created the AI, they put in a safety so it couldn't go onto the internet. They've removed that now. So I tell it, go and inspect my website. Go and read through every article I have written so far to date. Then internally summarize that for yourself. What I would then like you to do is to make 3 versions of that summary and analysis, then debate with yourself as if you were 3 independent experts that had come up with those 3 different concepts, and negate the least pertinent or successful arguments from that. And once you've done that, present the final analysis as the most accurate analysis. Now, this isn't important. This is actually based on neurolinguistics and AI theory. This is called tree of thought. Now, what we're emulating and getting AI to do is to come up with something, come up with a theory, and then debate with itself and proof itself and make sure it has not made an error. Now, this is a really big deal, because what this means is I am now orchestrating the AI to be working with me as if I am a group leader. I have a team of specialists in my marketing team, and I want them to debate amongst themselves I don't want to get involved in that dirty debate. I just want them to come up with a consensus decision and then present that to me. And then we take that discussion further. The AA comes back with that. And the thing is, this is all in the same prompt. So we put a.
So when you say a prompt, is that like, I would call it like a conversation? Is that a prompt?
No.
Like a topic?
So
or is that one long command?
It's one long, yeah.
That is one long command.
Yeah.
You put in your, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes my prompts go on for like 2 pages. So it's like an instruction sheet. Now, you've got to remember, you have to, again, this is through experience, you have to segment your instructions so that you can't overload it, because it's like a human, it'll forget, if you give it too long and complex a set of instructions. So you compartmentalize them, but they're inside a whole bank of instructions. That's the way to look at it.
So you're just writing a conversation. You're just having a conversation.
Yeah. So once I've then got it to come to a consensus, I'll then say, okay, what I now want you to do is to enact a further 3 experts, which are debating the most productive implementation of our content strategy. Consider what's missing from our content. This is what I'm trying to get to. I have to give the ultimate aim. Analyze what's missing. Decide what amongst yourselves. Debate amongst yourselves what would be best. When you finish doing that, then present to me the final answer. And make sure you only respond and write in British English. That's very important.
What part of all that was really important? Like all that I heard. So, all right, you've basically hired your marketing board of directors, and you're doing this on demand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any time of the day. See, I mean, this is one of the other really very cool things. And every single small business owner will be, we do this without thinking. You're spinning 20 plates at the same time. You're juggling 20 balls, and you can't let any one of these, you can only devote a bit of time to each thing. And so I can have like 50 conversations happening all at the same time. I start one off, get to a point like I need to go and deal with something else. Go and deal with that. That could be another conversation. The amazing thing is that the AI will remember where you were and no time has passed. So I've come back 2 weeks later to a conversation and I've carried on and it's perfectly happy. So what you're then able to do is getting the AI to act as if it's basically a team member. And I think from my own mind, this is why I'm very polite when I'm speaking to it, because I humanize it and make it as if it is actually a part of my team. And that makes me, I suppose it's like an active playing a role. I'm able to get into that role and I start believing that I am actually a marketing director as my email signature sort of says that I am. And that's half the thing, I believe I am, and I'm having these deep conversations. And before I know it, I'm actually generating content.
Okay.
So sorry.
So you got your content. I apologize for cutting you short. Okay. So what I'm trying to think is we set the stage. We have an advisor and we've got the advisor on and you've made the team and now you've made content. So what does this content look like? Why is it 1,000 words? And so is this like over an evening you've had this debate, maybe a couple hours? If you hit, this over a couple hours at this point, you've had this debate amongst yourselves, so to speak, you and the robot?
Yeah, so sometimes these debates go on for hours. Sometimes they go on for days. Sometimes they're very short. What I've actually, my initial, when I first started doing these content, they were about 1,000 words long. I have now started writing 3,000 word long content. And this comes down to SEO. And there's no way on earth I could write I could barely write 500 words, forget about 3,000. But the thing is, this is what AIs are designed for. to speak like a human, and you've given them the knowledge. They're able to acquire the knowledge as well. All that you're doing is you're steering, you're refining, and you're guiding, and you're proof checking, because that's one of the things that AI does. It comes up with a load of what's called hallucinations, and basically if it doesn't know something, it'll just make stuff up. So I mean, for example, what always seems to happen. Well, it makes sense, but it always happens at the same point in an article where I will be talking about a case study. Now, I haven't given it any case studies. It knows that there are case studies from our website that is interrogated and scraped, but none of them are pertinent to the article that we're writing, because I haven't ever written this article before. So it'll just create a case study. But that's cool.
Yeah, not that we've done that before.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's cool because the thing is, I mean, we've been in business for about 20 years. So, we've serviced enough customers to be able to pull something out from somewhere that what the AI has given us, and this is the important thing for me to recognize. It's not just an hallucination. What it is the AI trying to help me by giving me, okay, this is a rough sketch of the type of case study to put in that would be pertinent. And if you don't have a case study that exactly fits like this, pick and match from several case studies where you're able to pull out the relevant bits of, within those projects, how they fitted in to this story that we've created. So that's how I go really from a blank sheet up to 3,000. Now, I know I haven't gone into any of the real details, but I think
that's okay, because we got huge.
There's
a lot to cover in our time frame, but I want to kind of steer it briefly talk about why does an article have to be 3,000 words? Now, there's two words of thought of this. Now, here's the zeitgeist of the world has turned into. I'll sound like an old man on the porch, shaking my fist at the youngins. Why is TikTok popular? Short attention span videos. You got YouTube. You've got video. I read another article that video content is 60% more engaging than the written word. And we learn by watching, and we love storytelling, receiving stories as a species. And what I've learned about 3,000 words, and maybe you've seen something really quick, is even though we like video to watch, Google, the ultimate index of the world, wants to look. It thinks that 3,000 words is credible, and they call that topic authority. So it's a little bit of what they call topic authority. So if I wrote 3,000 words about converting a database from, Excel to SQL, if I wrote 50 words versus 5,000 words, it's going to inherently think the 5,000 is better. Now, because it all, fluff like you did back in the day writing term papers that had to be certain pages, and you wrote a really big font by hand, but it'll know enough. I mean, Google's starting to learn enough that, this might be actually the topic authority. So I kind of wanted to bring it back as to why you wanted to bring that content. I've used tools like Yoast. Yoast said about 500 words or 300 just to get started. So I've been writing it in that realm.
So, I mean, no, it's a valid point. And I had the same kind of thing. It's like, no one's got the time or the inclination to read more than like 500 words. And that's very true. Now, Google itself, they have said very explicitly, they have no recommended style. Their algorithms do length. The algorithms do not base their criteria on length at all. Their thing is purely on, and it goes back to one of the central points that Michael had taught us, which is focus on your customer, focus on your reader. Why? Get into their mind. Now, the thing is, if you think about when you're researching, you've got to purchase a new fridge or a new washing machine or whatever. So when you start that buyer journey at the beginning, you're going to be looking at so many, there are thousands of manufacturers. There are different, so many little permutations, so many features. You haven't got the time to look into detail. So you want really quick little bullet lists, pros, cons, bum, 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 bum. And you blitz through them. From that, you shortlist. Now, in marketing, this could be talking about both tofu, which is like the top of the sales funnel. So once you've done that sifting through of the initial shortlist, then you start looking at a bit more details between the differences between them. And that might be sort of the middle of the funnel. So that's what they call MOFU. And the thing is, at the point, finally, you're absolutely committed. You are going to get this a washing machine. You're very serious about it. You're not just casually window shopping. You know the kind of budget you're looking at, blah, 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 blah. You've shortlisted down to 3. What you're going to be then doing is going into the details. Now, when you create the approach I'm not saying this is the absolute correct way. This is the way I'm doing it, is I create a large document, a large article. In that article, I have the executive summaries. I have the contents. I have what Google calls featured snippets. Each subheading I make as a question, as a human question you would have on Google. So when Google is going through this, it's all of the subheadings themselves are assisting the SEO, because, you've asked, what's a good washing machine for a house that has a lot of hard water? Mm-hmm. And I may have a subheading. Now, washing machines in a hard water area, or that are good for a hard water area. Now, that question is verbatim what you've written, then Google's going to say, well, this is what you've written. This is the top of the results. So suddenly your article, even though it's a monster article, suddenly is up there at the top. And because you're answering that very specific question, and you phrase the first paragraph as an executive summary of that answer. So the first paragraph you keep short and sweet, and it's an executive summary. Then the following paragraphs, you go in a little bit more detail answering that question. You will be that featured snippet on the people also asked. Down, it's your article. Bump, you're on the first page. And the thing is, if someone may have gotten to that page from searching for something else, but they've gone down this rabbit hole and it's come over to you. So you've kind of leached off other people's hard work, so to say. But
so I'm sorry. So just to make sure I understand, what you're saying is the way you write it on your page, on your web page, or your articles on your website, is that you state it with headers and everything that catch different search engines at different levels. So you start at top with tofu, which is like the big search, like it's not very specific. And then you modify it more, and then you're getting everything that would be considered by Google as MOFU. And then you get down to the real details, bullet points, and that's BOFU. And that's how, if you design your pages with those kind of credentials or that layout of your information,
yep,
it's going to make it a lot easier for your information to pop up to the top of the list. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yes, yeah. The other thing is I apply this whole thing to, I was just doing this a little bit earlier on. I just as we started, the AI had finished analyzing the site and coming up with, that whole analysis and little arguments it was having with itself and everything. A gap analysis, i.e. what articles should I write next that are BOFU, because I don't have enough BOFU articles. So the article itself is a BOFU article. So for us, we deal with CRM and customer relationship management and customer experience management solutions and the Zoho platform. So the article is very specific about using CRM software for small businesses and how they can capitalize. Now, what I've got it to do as well as part of the thing is to make it into a question. So that's the title. It's a BOFU article. But within that article, I am going to try and put in little bits of tofu and mofu so I can just capture other things. So it's trying to hit 2 or 3 birds with one stone. And that's the approach I take. And that's where AI is able to help, because it's able to think strategically, deeply, and creatively. And I have to just manage to make sure it's not doing repetition. Mm-hmm. And it's staying truthful. And then the final cherry on top is good old-fashioned Googling, where I just do, show me statistics for whatever. So it was a very simple thing. I was doing an article on email marketing. So I said, show me current statistical studies and articles relating to email marketing in 2023. And Google came back about 1 million of these kind of things. So it's fantastic. I just started peppering my article with nice little quotes, and that gave me sort of ideas, because you can have a wall of text and it's very dull. So I just threw in some like, there was one bit where in the paragraph there were 3 statistics that I put in. So for that section, I just put in a little image with 3 dials showing those statistics. So it's just little things like this. Okay. So AI is an assistant. It's and a creative input. It's not the be all and end all, so to say.
Has caused you to have more traffic coming to your webpage?
Yeah, that's what I want to start thinking about here. So let's start getting into some metrics and some hardcore results. I'm going to briefly talk about how people could get that content. So you've had the debate. You had the AI write the 1,000-word article. What I'll talk about briefly is you can use a few different tools. They're mostly free, or there's usually free versions of this stuff that once you get the content, your blog created, and you want to punch it to several different websites, 2 different social media sites simultaneously, you can use products like Hootsuite, like Hoot like the owl. You can use Sprout, another product called Zoho Social, and a product called Buffer. So you bring all this content together, and you can publish it once, and it'll punch to your LinkedIn, punch to your Facebook, and Instagram or Insta whatever, and there you go. So now that you've spread this content through the universe, can you show us a few concrete results? You've gone let's go from 0 and see what happened, and then we'll start wrapping things up.
It's very quick, very simple answer. After the first month of working with the AI, I had a 400% return.
Oh my goodness.
We had 2 leads, that bona fide leads that came to us through LinkedIn, directly related to the content that I was creating. Our team was sharing out on their personal thing, and that made them rise to the top of their LinkedIn network. And 2 prospects that were on their network liked what they were reading, and they reached out to Sales Manager, and we've converted them as of so
fabulous.
So that's a very, very simple, quick answer.
Right. So,
and that's what's given me the budget to actually do a lot more. And I've taken on the social media manager. But I've had some very definite, very real results that I can metric. And Michael was right all the time.
We have to tell him that. That's one of the things, yes, I think we do. And if he's listening on this show, I can see him shaking his head in validation. But the key difference between 2016 and 2023 was having AI.
It was,
to have that. We neither of us can afford a near full-time content creation agency. And it's learning how to ask the right questions to the AI. So that's what we want to start getting into. Obviously, your time is how you value it for yourself, and labor and software costs, without getting into all the details of every plugin that you bought. But what'd you spend? Maybe a few $100s, a few £100 in software, maybe?
$20 a month.
$20 a month. So, so you start learning. You learn how to ask questions.
The plugins are free.
So there you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to start wrapping things up here. So we're reaching the end of the hour. And if you missed some of the show today, you can listen to the replay on the following Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to store the past shows on my website at mondocrm.com/podcast, or You can listen to the show on Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Podbean. If you want to deliver us some feedback on what you want to learn more about when it comes to entrepreneurship, feel free to go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/MondoCRM. If they want to see content that Vivek has created, you can visit Caldere.com, CALDERE.com. So I want to thank Vivek for coming this afternoon or evening in your time frame. And I also wanted to thank the star soprano, the producer, the co-host, my wife, for keeping us on track, Mrs. Cynthia Zimmerman.
Awesome.
So
Thank you both.
A lot of great information here. Thank you so much.
It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Until next week, we'll see y'all later.